Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Girl Your Magic podcast. I'm so excited to be here. Today's episode will be a little bit different than what I've been doing in the past. So, somebody sent me an email as a response to the newsletter I sent like 2 weeks ago. So, this newsletter was about how to be more magnetic and attractive. And this girl sent me an email telling me about how much she loved my email, and she's been going through some difficulties in her dating life, and she wanted me to give her advice on this question, and I'm going to read it out now. So just a second. So, hey Favor, I recently just got out of a 2-year relationship and I completely lost myself in this connection. And I honestly don't know how. I like to think that I have a nurturing spirit and I tend to attract the same broken people. I'm in and out of depression. My anxiety is through the roof, and my overthinking is causing me to self sabotage. I've been broken before and I've put myself back together, but this time around, it hits different. I feel everything. I'm not sure how to start over and fall in love with myself slash life again. Wow. I completely get you. I know what it's like to give somebody your all in a relationship and it not being reciprocated. And also the fact that like you've been through some hard relationships and you had to put yourself back together. I think an important part of what you said was I've been broken before and I've put myself back together, but this time around it hits different. I feel everything. I'm not sure how to start over and fall in love with myself again. Okay, first things first, we need to figure out why you keep attracting the same type of people. Like you said you keep attracting broken people, even though you have a nurturing spirit, right? And a lot of the times you would find that you always attract people who are on the same frequency as you. They are like mirrors to you. And it's a good thing because people can be our teachers, right? So you need to figure out what is it about me that's attracted to broken people. And I think the first step to loving yourself is to heal yourself. You have to heal the emotional unavailability that you have within yourself that's attracting you to broken people. Some part of you is trying to fix a difficult relationship that you had in the past. I don't really know your childhood history or your school history. Maybe you wanted approval of some kind from somebody that you looked up to, but they didn't give you that. So you sort of recreate that with other people. And you could even recreate that with friends as well. And I'm speaking from experience. Um, I say this to say that I'm not perfect. I'm speaking from experience. I know what it's like to constantly attract emotionally unavailable people. And I had to ask myself why. I also had to accept that I was emotionally unavailable myself. And that's where loving yourself comes into place. You attract broken people because there's some part of you that still wants their approval. And until you get over that part of you that wants their approval and you start giving yourself that approval, you continue to learn that lesson with different people. So it's a good thing at least you know that you're attracting this type of people. You want to move forward with your life. You don't want to keep recreating the same hell and the same pain and bumping your head against the wall. So, how do you do that? You do that by reparenting yourself, giving yourself the validation, giving yourself the love, healing your inner child. It's like taking your inner child out to a date. Like, give yourself everything that was missing, now you thought was missing, whether that's affirmation, validation, gifts. Learning to enjoy your company is the first thing, because I feel like a lot of women don't really do the work on loving themselves and enjoying their company and enjoying being alone. And sometimes we get scared of just being alone and we want to rush things, we want to rush the process of, I don't know, marriage or just being with someone, that we ignore the red flags, and then we end up in a relationship with someone that has nothing to do with us or what we want out of our lives. And it's so important to pick the right person. And I think also, like, now you've experienced what it's like to be with people who are broken. And so you're not starting from scratch, you're actually starting from experience. So you can take down notes on what to look for the next time you date someone. And obviously, when you're ready to date somebody. But the next time that you're ready to date someone, you'll be able to look out for the things. Of course, you're not going into the dating experience just looking for red flags. But if red flags do come up, you'll be able to handle things better and not ignore the red flags. So being able to write down what the red flags of someone who's broken or emotionally unavailable is, like, for example, emotionally unavailable people tend to be really bad with communicating. They're not great communicators. They don't like deep topics. They prefer to keep things on the surface level. Everything is always on their terms. Everything in your relationship, they have to be in control. What else? They will definitely avoid communicating about future events, future plans with you. And, they might come off as wanting to be in a relationship with you in the beginning, but they can't sustain that connection for so long. They don't have the capacity to love someone fully and for a long time. They can't sustain intimacy and they're afraid of intimacy. And I think that that's also another thing, being afraid of intimacy. You are subconsciously attracted to, I think, accepting that you are subconsciously attracted to emotionally unavailable people will help you get over them and help you to understand why you are that way. You have subconscious beliefs around intimacy. Deep down, you are afraid of being fully seen, fully heard, fully known by someone, because it scares you. The thought of losing somebody, the thought of somebody getting to know you and then abandoning you causes you a lot of pain. So it's a lot easier to go for someone who isn't really there, but is there, isn't really all the way with you, and they are also closed off themselves. So there isn't any risk involved, or there isn't much risk involved, even though these relationships are very painful, because deep down, what you want is to be loved, and you deserve to be loved, and you have to also believe that you deserve to be loved by first loving yourself, because the thing is with emotionally unavailable people is they can't love you because they also do not love themselves. And that's a mirror for you, because it means that you, of course, you already acknowledge that you need to work on loving yourself. When you do love yourself, it's harder to love someone. It's harder to accept disrespect. Let me see. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. It's harder to accept disrespect from other people, and even yourself. You would not stand for disrespect. Even if you do end up with someone toxic, that's not going to last for very long. And I feel like that self love also extends to other areas in your life as well, not just relationships. But with the thing that you choose to do with your career, with your jobs, you leave toxic jobs a lot quicker. You would have less anxiety. Like you said, you're experiencing anxiety, depression, in and out of depression, and you are having self sabotaging thoughts and overthinking, right? So when you love yourself, you experience less anxiety, less stress, because you're able to say no a lot more. You're able to say no to the things that don't serve you, and you don't apologize for putting yourself first. Because if you don't take care of yourself, the truth is no one will take care of you more than you take care of yourself. No one will love you more than you love yourself. Okay, so now how do we start to love ourselves, fall back in love with ourselves? It's easy. Just, you said it yourself, you're good at nurturing, right? So treat yourself like you would a partner. Treat yourself like somebody you love. Start appreciating yourself. When you look in the mirror, what thoughts do you have that pop up? Start changing those thoughts. When you have a negative thought, just change it. Like if you look in the mirror and you think you're ugly, just say I'm beautiful in your mind. Even if you don't believe it, you will soon start to believe it. And it becomes so real that it's scary. Scary good and scary real. But it works. And start journaling. I started journaling when I started my self love journey, and it really has changed my entire life, changed how I think. It's even helped me to figure out what I want to do in my life. It's so good for learning yourself, because for you to love yourself, you have to actually understand who you are. You have to know who you are. So start writing down. If you don't know what to journal about, you can go to my website, selfhealjourney.com. And I have a lot, like tons of journal prompts on my website that you can start using to help with loving yourself more. You can start writing down your self destructive patterns in your relationships. Like, what do you do that's a red flag? Do you meet a guy and then you just want to instantly attach yourself, instantly overly invest in someone? Do you meet someone and do you just start fantasizing about the future and you barely know this person? Do you meet someone and you fall for love bombing? Do you meet someone and you are desperate and lonely, so you feel like you have to keep somebody even after you've seen the red flags? Do you meet somebody and overshare, and you overshare about the trauma that happened to you? This is really important, because that could be a tool that manipulators use against you. So you have to be very careful with what you're doing. Be careful to not rush relationships. We get into these relationships really quickly, and then we find out that the person was pretending the whole time, or they were wearing a mask. So you have to be careful. Take your time. with relationships next time, or write down your self destructive patterns. You could do this for friends as well. And you'll be able to find a pattern. You could just write about the relationships, the romantic relationships that you've had, and write down the commonalities between them. Write down the thoughts that you have around these relationships and your self destructive patterns. And then you want to constantly, because this is about reprogramming your mind, constantly feed yourself with positive affirmations. You do not have to repeat several affirmations in a day. You could just repeat just one. And it could be as simple as, I love myself. I love myself. Like every hour of the day, or just three times a day. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. And that becomes so real eventually. And I just want to go back to the previous point about journaling and being the person that you want to attract. So you have to write down your limiting beliefs that you have about relationships, because I from what you just said, from what you wrote down to me, I think that you may struggle with intimacy, like really allowing somebody to see you and hear you and love you and know you deeply, because you said it yourself, like you're nurturing and you always give love to other people. But I feel as though that love isn't being reciprocated. So you are used to the dynamic being one sided, where you are giving this person all your love, you're putting them on a pedestal, but in return, you're not getting anything. But you've gotten comfortable with that. So you need to find out what your love story is, or the stories that you have about love, and start thinking of how to counteract that. So, for example, I know I'm going back into the previous point, but I think this is so important. So, for example, let's say your subconscious belief about love is love always hurts, right? If I give somebody everything, they always leave me, or love abandons me, something like that. You could then counteract that by saying or looking for examples in your life where love actually hasn't abandoned you or isn't painful, like real love. And if you don't have examples of that, try to be an example for yourself. And I think this is also where trusting yourself comes in. So I'm going to go to the next point. So you need to trust yourself. But how do you trust yourself? It's like dealing with any human being. For you to really love someone, you have to trust them. You have to trust them to be 100% vulnerable to them. So, how do you trust someone? You trust them by them keeping their word. So, when you say that you're going to do something, you have to do it. And this is something that I have learned over the years, and I do not joke with it. If I say that I'm going to do something, I have to do it. If I say that I'm going to be committed on my goals this year, I cannot not do it. I have to commit and do it, because when you don't do what you said you were going to do, you lose faith in yourself. And that's a bigger problem because you don't trust yourself. So, of course, if you don't trust yourself, how can you trust someone else? Right? Exactly. So, another thing I would say is to start taking care of yourself. And I know, yes, this is I mean, it's simple, it's not rocket science, but really taking care of yourself, and not just physically, but physically is a big part of it. It is actually it is a big part of it, especially if you're going through depression. And I know it's hard if you are depressed to do mundane things like just even brushing your teeth. Trust me, I understand. But even if you just take out three things that you want to do, or just one thing that you want to do that day, it could be as simple as laying your bed. That is a form of self care. Laying your bed, reading self help books, doing things that you like, doing things that make you happy every single day. Just one thing. And make a promise to yourself that you're going to do it. If you fail to uphold that promise, you start losing trust and you start losing confidence in yourself. So it's very important to stick to the things that you say you're going to do. Another important aspect of self care that I've found that works wonders is the food that I put into my body. I was somebody that suffered with depression and anxiety. And the thing that really massively helped me was maintaining my gut health. At some point, I became vegan, but I started eating more vegetables. And I know it sounds so simple, but when I started eating more vegetables, I started eating more fiber in my diet. I noticed I slept better. I worried less. I had less stress. I had less, of course, having less stress means you have less anxiety and, of course, less depression. So I started to work on my depression with the food that I ate. It really has, I recommend doing it because it really has an impact on your regulation. When your gut is balanced, you I'm so passionate about this. I don't know. Like when your gut is balanced, you just have more serotonin. And serotonin is one of the happy chemicals. So you want to use that to your benefit. And there are other happy chemicals as well that you could take advantage of. There's oxytocin, endorphins, which is like why I like to exercise because those are like painkillers. There's the serotonin that I already mentioned, and there's one other one I can't remember right now. But yeah, anyways, I recommend eating really well, trying your best to stay away from processed foods because they make things 10 times worse. And of course, like personal grooming as well is so important. And just doing things that make you happy. Okay. Learn your love language. Take yourself out on dates. I recently wrote a blog post about solo dates, right? Solo date ideas. And I've taken myself on a lot actually since I started the journey last year. I took myself out on a bunch of solo dates and I learned so much about myself. I learned what made me happy, right? And now, when it comes to actually dating someone, I know what standards I have, how I want them to treat me when we're out on a date. It's also a great way to just get to know yourself, because especially if you are someone who is constantly surrounded by people all the time, sometimes you just need that time to yourself to get to know yourself. I think that's the best way to really love yourself. Learn your love language, take yourself out on dates to really learn what you like. Do you like gifts? Are you the type of person that just likes quality time? And I used to confuse quality time with just sitting by myself and like scrolling on the internet. No, that's not what quality time is. But yeah, are you the type of person that likes quality time? Do you like affirmations? Do you like physical touch? Get to know yourself, get to know what you like, get to explore yourself, and don't feel bad for being selfish. Because I know as women, we're expected to give and give and give and give until we have nothing left. And it's almost like being a giver somehow is a measure of our worth. And it's so not true because if you give everything and you don't have anything left for yourself, you're going to be resentful and you're going to be bitter. And obviously, no one wants that. So just focus on yourself, focus on this time to pour into yourself and become the woman that you really want to be. And make no mistake, when you become that woman, you have to maintain your boundaries. And this leads me to another point. Having boundaries. Boundaries are for your protection. When you have boundaries, it's so much easier to get rid of toxic people. I can't tell you how many times I've set boundaries in my relationships, and it really exposes people. It exposes their intentions for you when you say no. You get to know who's manipulating you, or who's actually on your side, and who is healthy for you. So start setting boundaries. Start saying no. If you want to say no and you feel the need to say yes, ask yourself why you feel the need to say yes. Ask yourself, what rewards are you getting from being a people pleaser? You don't need to be a people pleaser, because honestly, being a people pleaser, it doesn't get you anywhere. You're not loved more for being a people pleaser. You're only disrespected. So yeah, another thing I wanted to say is to practice forgiving yourself. This is important because without forgiveness, you can't really move past your hurts, and you also can't let new people in. And so it blocks your blessings, right? And obviously, you may have broken your trust in the past as well. So that makes you not want to trust yourself. It's so important that you let go of the hurt that you felt by other people, move past that. And it takes time. Of course it does. It takes time. But just loving yourself and not enough to let go of the guilt, the criticism, the shame that you've experienced in your relationship will really help you evolve and love yourself even more deeply. And knowing that it's okay to make mistakes, the same compassion that you give to other people, because I'm sure, like, the guys that you've been with, you've forgiven them so many times, and it hurts. It really hurts. It hurts you the most because you put yourself in that predicament. You put yourself in the toxic relationships. So reserving some empathy and compassion and understanding towards yourself is one of the best things that you can do. A great way to start over is to start figuring out what your passions are. Start trying out new activities. I guess this is kind of similar to the solo dating, but figure out what it is that you actually like to do, what you're good at, and do a lot of it. It really makes you feel good. It boosts your confidence when you do things that you're good at, right? And it just helps you love yourself more because you're just committing to something that makes you happy, you're naturally good at. Just try those things and see how they work for you. I recommend doing things that are out of your comfort zone as well. Be spontaneous. You never know what hobby or what activity will get you hooked and keep you coming back for more. So just try things that scare you every single day. I know it's easier said than done, but just anything that you're good at, do more of it and you will feel so much better. Hold yourself accountable. Take responsibility for the fact that you have put yourself in this dynamic in the past, and figure out how to move forward. And I know it's so easy to want to blame other people for how they treated us. But the truth is, or even like assign names to them, oh, this person is a psychopath, this person is a narcissist. But the truth is, it's not entirely the other person's fault. And I mean this in the most loving way possible. It's so important to take ownership of the issues that you have in your life, because if you don't take ownership, you feel powerless, you feel like a victim. I think this was so important for me when I started my self-love journey, was to stop feeling like a victim and to stop feeling like everybody is doing things to me. And I switched that line of thinking from why is this always happening to me to why am I allowing this to happen? Why are you allowing broken people to come into your life? Because you could attract them, but you don't have to entertain them. You could attract, I mean, we attract so many different types of people, but you chose those people to be in a relationship with. So it's asking yourself why and holding yourself accountable. Obviously, not beating yourself up because what this isn't the point. The point is to take your power back and know that you're in control of your life. And I think that helps with depression as well because I feel like part of depression is feeling hopeless and feeling powerless over your situation. And yeah, and I think the final thing I would say is to always praise yourself, always appreciate yourself like you would a partner. So appreciate yourself for the small things, the small wins, the big wins. Give yourself that validation because at the core of it is seeking validation from the opposite sex, seeking validation from other people to hopefully fill that void that you have within. And no amount of external validation will ever be enough. And that's why other like people who are emotionally unavailable, it doesn't matter how much you love them. The problem is they don't feel like they deserve that love. So it doesn't matter how much you pour into those people, it will feel like you're pouring into an empty void. So you have to take that love and give all that back to yourself because you deserve it more than anybody else. And you have to also believe that you're deserving of love. And of course, I wish you well. If there is anything that you're confused about, let me know. If anyone else has any questions for me, I would love to go in depth and answer your questions on my podcast. I love you so much. Take care of yourself. Mwah. See you in the next episode.